They're coming to get you, Barbara. Look, there's one of them now. You know where this is going. Let's talk about it. Hey, welcome back to my channel. Hope everyone's doing well out there. And today we're going to talk about the 1990 version of Night of the Living Dead. This film came out October 19th of 1990. It's rated R. It's only an hour and 32 minutes long. Had a budget of $4.2 million. And upon release, it only made 5.8, sadly. Now, this movie is a culmination of a lot of things. If you ever see interviews with Romero and some of the other producers on the original film, they'll tell you that film went out without a copyright on it, which was unfortunate for them. It was a huge mistake that got overlooked. I don't know how. And because of that, they didn't make a whole lot of money off the success of the original film. A lot of other people did. They'd slap that movie on a VHS or a DVD later on and make money off it because they didn't have to pay any money for it because it wasn't copyrighted. It was like free use. So this was their way of making some money off of that title and redoing the original film. So they chose Tom Savini to direct this film. Now, up until this point, this is Tom Savini's first theatrically directed film. Before this, he directed a few episodes of Tales from the Dark Side, the series. And after this, he directed some other things. And Tom Savini had been around for a while. Obviously, he's an actor, makeup effects artist, stuntman, blah, blah, blah. He's been around for a long time. I met the man once at a Fangoria convention. He was very nice to me and my friends. And in this film, we have Tony Todd as Ben. Dwayne Jones played Ben in the original film. Here we have Tony Todd. Patricia Tallman, who was a friend of Tom Savini's, and still is, I'm sure, plays Barbara. Tom Tolles plays Harry Cooper, and Tom Tolles has been around for a long time. And he's been in other horror films like House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects. He was in Miami Vice. He's been in a lot of films over the years. Sadly, the man has passed away. William Butler plays Tom. William Butler's been around for a while. He was in this film. He was in Friday the 13th, Part 7. He was in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. I think he directed a few films. Tom Butler's been around for a while. Katie Finneran plays Judy Rose. This is her first theatrical film. And I just spoke about her in the movie Freaky. She played the mom in Freaky. And the great Bill Moseley plays Johnny in this film, Barbara's brother, who unfortunately gets killed pretty quickly into the film. Now, this film pretty much stays with the original script and setup, pretty much follows that same story. There are some different character beats, of course, and the beginning of this film, now the original was in black and white, but it was more like a stormy day when they go to the cemetery in the beginning of the film, Barbara and her brother. In this film, it's brightly sunny, looks like a very pleasant day, and they drove out to visit their mother's grave, Johnny and Barbara, and Johnny's kind of dicking around with Barbara, making fun, just having just kind of poking jokes. And Johnny, this zombie comes up and grabs Barbara, and Johnny ends up wrestling with the zombie, gets killed when his head slams off of a tombstone. Barbara gets away in the car, not driving. She unleashes the emergency brake and it rolls down a hill. This Mercedes, which was actually Tom Savini's Mercedes in real life, it was one of the first vehicles he bought, his first car he bought after he got some success in Hollywood. And he said it pained him to wreck the car for the film. And then she finds her way to the farmhouse. She meets up with Ben, arrives soon after. And we meet these other characters, Tom, Judy Rose, Harry, and his wife and his daughter who got bit by one of the zombies. Although zombie is never mentioned during this film. But we're fans of the genre. We're fans of these films, so we know what they are. But they never say the word zombie. And Tom Savini does a nice job setting up the beginning of the zombie apocalypse, like the original film. There's a TV in the farmhouse, and there's some TV news, segments where it says about, like, the CDC says it's this thing, and other people are saying it's this. A lot of misinformation. They're not sure what's going on or why these people are coming after them or reanimating after they're dead. But the one consensus is if you shoot them in the head or damage their head with a blunt object, that's the one way to take them down. And when Ben first meets Barbara and they go in the house, I love this scene where Tony Todd's character is just going over his day, like what he went through to get to where they are at this moment. And she's just kind of listening as she's doing things in the background. And I love that scene because it sets up, like, he's just so interested in trying to give her this information about what happened to him. And then he even asks her, how'd you get here? And she doesn't kind of go into it really with him. But he's hungry for answers that he never really gets other than the dead are coming back to life. And nobody knows why. And as the film goes on, we see warring factions between Cooper and Ben. I'm going to fast forward through a bunch of this because we've seen this film. If you're a horror fan, you've seen Night of the Living Dead. The 1990 version sticks pretty closely to the original Romero template. And then at the end of the film, Patricia takes off because Ben tells her to, because he's been shot by Cooper. Cooper's been shot by Ben. Cooper takes refuge up in the attic. Ben goes down in the basement. Barbara takes off, meets up with these rednecks that are hunting the countryside, taking out these zombies. And then we see the scene where she wakes up in a Jeep and there's like news people there, and there's this guy, the sheriff, that's telling them, they're rounding up the zombies, or you got to shoot them in the head. And they end up going back to the farmhouse, and when they open the basement, Ben comes out, but he's a zombie because he dies from his wounds. He gets shot in the head, and Cooper comes down. But he's still alive, but Barbara shoots him right in the head and just plays it off like he was a zombie. And that's pretty much the end of Night of the Living Dead 1990. There's a moment, I like this moment too, when Barbara wakes up from sleeping and she sees what these rednecks are doing to some of these zombies. Like, they have like this ring where a guy gets in and starts pummeling this zombie, and they have 3 zombies hanging from a tree, and they're throwing shit at it and just shooting at, using them for target practice. Unnecessary shit. And she just goes, they're us and we're them. And I like that saying, and I like that moment. And it's just, Tom Savini does a nice job with this film. For his first theatrical film, he does a nice job with it. It looks nice. It's well shot. Is there a couple drawbacks to this film? Yes. Some of the acting is not the greatest. Not by Tony Todd's fantastic, Patricia Tallman, Tom Tolles are all good. Judy Rose's character, some of her line delivery is not the greatest, and I realize it's Katie Finneran's first film, so it could be forgiven, but some of her delivery is not the greatest. And even William Butler's a few scenes where even his delivery is a little off. But overall, the acting is very well done. There's an effects moment where Barbara is fighting off the Uncle Reach zombie in the house with a fire poker. And you can clearly tell, especially depending on the camera, and now they're shooting from behind the zombie, but you can tell it's a dummy. So I'll say 98% of the makeup effects are spectacular in this film, but there's a few little moments where it doesn't look realistic. Now, I know they didn't have a huge budget, but most of the effects are fantastic. So what you would expect from a Tom Savini directed film, considering he's one of the masters of gore, masters of makeup. And a lot of the guys that did makeup on this film have worked with Tom Savini for years before this film. So it was like a family operation for the most part. Tom Savini originally wanted to open this film in black and white and slowly add in color till it was fully color. I think that's a cool idea. Sadly, they didn't let him do it. Originally, this was given an X by the MPAA, and Tom Savini had to make trims to it to get to rated R. If you watch the documentary, it's on the Blu-ray or DVD, they actually show you some of those scenes that got them the rated X. So yeah, you can see those. They're in the documentary. And Ving Rhames was originally considered for Ben, but he didn't get the role. He lost out to Tony Todd. It's funny, 14 years later, he played in George Romero's remake of Dawn of the Dead with Zack Snyder directing. Savini clashed with the producers on this film. Romero was an executive producer on this film, but he wasn't around all the time because he was shooting Two Evil Eyes with Dario Argento. That movie with 2 segments. George Romero does one, Dario Argento does the other. So they were filming in the Pittsburgh area as well, but Romero wasn't always on set. When Romero wasn't on set, Tom Savini was fighting with the producers because they were hamstringing him at every turn to try to save money. Tom Savini said maybe 40% of his ideas made it into the film, and he was clashing. It was kind of like hell on earth for him to be that film. Even though it was a film he was excited about doing, it wasn't the most pleasant experience because of the producers. But overall, it's a solid remake. This is one of those remakes that doesn't get talked about enough, although I think it's starting to get recognized as a really good remake. I hear more and more people giving it praise. To each their own. I mean, film is subjective, but I think it deserves to be talked about in one of the better remakes ever made. Some remakes are spectacular, like The Thing or The Fly. I think this is a really good remake. I would give this film an 8 out of 10. I think it's a solid remake of a classic film, and Tom Savini did a really nice job, and most of the acting is really well done here, and the effects and everything we come to expect from a zombie film. So yes, 8 out of 10 for Night of the Living Dead 1990. Have you ever seen this version? Leave a comment down below. Let me know. Hit the thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate that. Share this video. I would appreciate that as well. I hope everyone's doing well out there. Have a kick-ass weekend. I'll be back next week with a review for Sudden Impact, the next installment in the Dirty Harry franchise. I think I'm also going to do Perfect Weapon next week. That's a review that I've been getting requests for lately, and I like that film. I have it on Blu-ray, so I think I'm going to review that one, and I'll do another horror film towards the end of next week. But I hope everyone's doing well out there, and until next time, I'm just going to leave you with bye.